I'd like to start the study session at 5:04.
Hi.
Hello.
So President Quintana, Superintendent Abrego, and members of the board, I'm here to present to you on our graduation guidelines here in Adams 14. And I'm going to take you through a few different slides, some national stats, some state and local stats here for our district as we get into our presentation. So if you look over here on the top left-hand side, from a national graduation rate, you look at 84% nationally, we have that graduation rate, about 10 out of every 12 students. If you look to the map on the right, this is 69.7% of high school graduates enroll in colleges or universities. If you look down below the dollar sign, dropout, $7.2 billion in lost wages due to students dropping out. These statistics vary, but not by much as you look them up from different sources across the nation. And then if you look at the bottom right, we have 40 to 60% high school graduates require remediation courses. This next slide compares some of our local and state. So the district in 2017, the four-year graduation rate is 65.6%. This changed, I believe, about 0.3 from the prior year, and we're always in a year of arrears in our district, going through matriculation rates, and ultimately we have to make sure that we can track down our students to determine where they went after graduation. State is 79%. Completion rate for our district was at 67.2, and the state was 80.2%. If you look at the picture to the right, 33%. So in 2017, graduates enrolled in 2 or 4 year college. In our district, that was about 33%, 133 students. This was about the exact same percentage as the prior year. The number of students changed because I think the end changed. So that stayed about the same. Looking at lost wages, Adams 14, 2017-18 dropout rate, 7.9%, about 293 students we lost last year. The state percent, 2.3. This equates for each one of our graduates to about anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000 per year, less than what a high school graduate would earn. Again, that stat can change over time, depending on different resources, but somewhere falls into that range typically. And the bottom right, 40% of 2017 Colorado graduates require college remediation. I don't have that stat for our own students here in Adams 14. I'm not able to access which percent of our students are in remediation classes in college. So why change graduation guidelines? The goal is for a student to graduate from high school prepared to be successful in school and in life, earning a living wage and contributing to Colorado's economy. We know Colorado is committed to educating students so they enter the workforce with in-demand skills that meet business, industry, and higher education standards. We know Colorado's graduation guidelines reflect our state's rigorous expectations for students and for educators. And the state's graduation guidelines are a meaningful link to improvements that Colorado has already made to set clearer, higher expectations for students and educators. So we know in the past 30 years, our world has shifted dramatically. And the way that schools prepare their students for this changing, globally connected world needs to stay ahead of this shift. This introduces the idea of developing 21st century skills and competencies in our students. So the 21st century skills are intentionally embedded in all content areas and all grade levels of the Colorado academic standards. In addition, the Colorado State Board of Education and Colorado Commission on Higher Education jointly adopted 21st century skills as key elements of Colorado's description of post-secondary and workforce readiness. This is also known as college and career readiness. So you probably have heard that a fair amount over the last year or two. And we typically use the phrase college and career ready. So this is the idea that our students, no matter what their aspirations may be, when they graduate from our high school, we need to have them ready for the workforce, career readiness, or college readiness. Again, why change graduation guidelines? The following is a list of 21st century skills. These are identified by CDE, but as a former as a person in the classroom, these are things that are critical to students that I've taught over my last 20 years. So we spoke to, or I mentioned, the last 30 years we've seen this dramatically changed workforce and expectations of people as they enter into it. So some of these different 21st century skills, critical thinking and reasoning, information literacy. So this is reading for information, almost textbook-like reading. Collaboration. We know working together generates the best ideas. Self-direction. This was really interesting when I met with some of our community at the Superintendent's Forum last May. They actually spoke to, they didn't use the word self-direction, but they used the words independent, as that's what they wanted for their kids. They want them to be able to do something independently. And some of them, spoke to something as simplistic as taking out the trash, but something that could get them to work independently and self-directed almost. And the last category was invention. So 21st century skills cycle, the influence of 21st century skills crosses all levels of education and society. Successful 21st century learners will be engaged in the interconnected cycle of improved educational experiences for future generations. So the guidelines have two purposes: to articulate Colorado's shared beliefs about the value and meaning of a high school diploma. And the second one is to outline the minimum components, expectations, and responsibilities of local districts and the state to support students in attaining their high school diploma, and in providing evidence to employers. And this part is really the big change, this second part. So I'll go back. And in providing evidence to employers, military recruiters, training programs, and college admission teams that they are ready for the next step after high school. So in September of 2015, my apologies, the Colorado State Board of Education adopted a comprehensive set of guidelines to be used by each school district's Board of Education in establishing requirements for students to receive a high school diploma. So, can I approach, President? So we're going to take a look here at existing. So I'll give you some more things to this folder. But in this folder, you'll notice the existing policy that we have. I'll give you a minute to glance through a little bit of that. So if you're able to flip to the second page, and you'll see something that looks a bit table-like on that second page. That looks similar to the slide that I have up here at this moment. What I've already done is, you'll see the first column in our current policy. It applies to for students enrolling in ninth grade prior to August of 2005. So we've long passed that time. So that column I've actually taken out of that table that you see up there right now, because it no longer applies to any of our students from 2005 entering ninth grade. You'll see the next column for students enrolling in ninth grade in August 2005 and thereafter. That is really the column that reflects that part. And then the last column still has the Colorado Commission of what they recommend students take. So Adams 14, our current policy regarding graduation credits, you'll notice that left-hand side, some of the different things, I guess kind of what I want to get to from any of you are, what are some things that you notice on that left-hand side that seem a little unusual in today's world?
Keyboarding.
Keyboarding. So you see that one. Keyboarding, we've had a lot of discussion over the years. It's actually kind of like a third grade skill to keyboard. I learned it in 10th grade. So I still remember taking typing, is what it was called back then. Any other things that you notice that are unusual, maybe obsolete, or that you would expect to be there?
Well, I was going to say the academic. There's two different ones there, isn't there?
Academic electives?
And other.
Other electives? Or these two?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they don't require a foreign language nowadays.
I was really shocked to see that, knowing that we've had a lot of discussion in our district about biliteracy, and we have students with that asset.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have it as a graduation requirement. Foreign language, 0 credits were required. So kind of unusual. So what I did is I actually took people in our community last May through this very slide just to get some of their feedback on what they would expect for their kids to be able to have, or those expectations for classes in different content areas to graduate. One that's up here that's newer is something called personal financial literacy. It's in bold. That's a state requirement. So I see Senator Moreno nodding his head. He's aware of that, and our students should have that. So I went ahead and put that over here as something we should have, because it's state required at this point. Something else, health. Our parents brought up health. It's something that isn't required in our district. So just some unusual things that some of you probably notice, and some of our parents did as well. So we'll need to do some changing to that. And you'll see a first reading of some of the ideas reflected from our community as I led them through this work last May.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
How is personal financial literacy tied in, or how does it support the mathematics requirements in the district?
Good question. Right now, it's kind of left up locally. So when we went through school, and if you had intentions of going to college, there are certain math classes you need to take: algebra, geometry, algebra 2. Personal financial literacy, I'm seeing in many districts, kind of falls into that academic elective area. So, but that's to be determined by the school even. It's given that much autonomy. Any other questions I can answer from this?
When did they stop? Because that must really be old, because I remember when I was in school taking health, one portion, then you take swimming or regular PE.
Yes, health is, I think
It's way
when I
out there.
took it, it was probably embedded into PE.
Yeah.
Many of our parents shared a desire to pull it out completely and not have it embedded, but to have it more like have it a semester-long course that everyone goes through. And then even to share some of their feedback, they broaden that definition. So when I think of health, you and I probably have a pretty similar definition, but our parents were sharing things like health and medicine, almost like career type health, not just health. So they started to branch off into nursing, into some of these different areas that are in line kind of with that career readiness part that we were speaking to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Schwartz, going back to your figure on the percentage of Colorado graduates that require remediation, I suspect our numbers in this district may be a little higher than the statewide average. Is there a way to track that information?
I can check in with Jamie Ball in assessment and maybe Ruben Chacon to see if we might be able to track down some of that information, because I have heard that as well, that many of our students that do decide college wind up in remedial classes, especially in math, is what I typically hear. So we'll see what we can do to track some of that information down. Yeah.
And that remediation metric, that is not used by the Colorado Department of Education as a metric for post-secondary and workforce readiness?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge. No. So moving on, while 21st century skills may look unique to each district, 21st century skills growth is a systematic and rigorous process that may include assessments, something called capstone projects, which I hope to share with you a little more information about, service learning experiences. So I'll give you an example of what that was. Many of you were here on our last board meeting when we had some of our own Adams 14 students recognized for some of their learning experiences that we actually were able to pay them for. So it's kind of similar to that when they're talking about service learning experiences. And then, of course, they just say other demonstrations. Colorado graduation guidelines provide a roadmap to help students and their families plan for success after high school. The graduation guidelines take effect with ninth graders the fall of 2017. So as far as the state is concerned, some of these changes are already going on. And they started with last year's 9th graders, this year's 10th graders. Beginning in 2021, students must demonstrate competency or show what they know. Their high school diploma will prove they are ready to enter work, military, or college. And I'll show you some of those examples here in a minute. Actually, let's see. I'm going to share with you, because I know you got to see some of our own policy here in Adams 14. I have examples from 3 different school districts, if I can approach. I have St. Vrain's, which also, some of these have different credit requirements too. So St. Vrain is as high as, I want to say, 24 and a half. And I think Westminster may be 22. We currently sit at 23. It's, again, something I would like our board to, if they have input on changing that, certainly be interested in hearing that. Can I approach President Quintana?
Yes.
So, here's what policy IKF looks like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to approach and give you Westminster's and Mapleton's as well,
Okay.
by comparison. This one doesn't print out as nice and neat as the other one. And this one, I believe, has 22 credits. Require within the district.
Thank
We
you.
have been sitting, I think, at 23 for quite This one is also 22. This is Mapleton, fairly similar in size to Adams 14. They actually run a different model, where they almost have like K-12 schools.
Thank you.
Still goes through Mapleton's.
Not anymore.
Mr. Schwartz, may I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm looking at the number of credits, and am I correct that to graduate from the school, the minimum credits that the state requires is 17?
Yes, as I researched this last year, the state requires 17. It's local districts that
Okay.
can set that standard higher. So
And-
we set ours at 23 credits. Mapleton's 22, Westminster, I think, is 22, St. Vrain's 24 and a half.
And did you say we had 23 was a requirement last year?
Yes.
And this year it's going to stay the same at 23?
As long as this board does
Oppose
not
it.
have a desire to change that. I didn't get feedback from our community, did not dictate a change there. I can share that with you. There were some parents that wanted more. As a parent, you can always get more if you make sure your student has a full caseload of classes from 9th grade through 12th grade and is passing. They walk out of there with plenty of credits.
So if the state requires only 17, why do we do 23?
My guess would be competition, so it would dictate that. So that's part of the reason why I'm handing you some of our surrounding districts nearby that are similar in size on what they do. And then St. Vrain again was the highest that I'm aware of at 24.5. But that is set locally.
Again, another question. If I'm a student at the high school, I'm taking a full load. In 1 year, I can earn 6 credits.
Yes.
So 6, 12, 18, 24. I can go through, get,
Yes.
and meet it.
Yeah.
As long as I could even fail one class, but hopefully if I
You
don't,
can fail and pick it up potentially over the summer or through credit recovery.
Mr. Schwartz.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you to, thanks. I wanted to ask you about, I guess what I see as a trade-off between trying to increase our students' graduation rates, which is kind of coupled with also their preparation for college, so that they're not taking remediation as freshmen, with the concern we have for having students receive a broader curriculum that includes, like, say, the financial literacy or keyboarding and so forth, because presumably those are two examples that probably don't have much bearing on their need for remediation at the college level. You see, so I see it, that we're confronted with a situation of breadth of scope versus in-depth preparation in the kind of the basics necessary for college success. And so I would like to know how you evaluate that trade-off.
You know, I think we're always, and I'm speaking more from my opinion, but I think we're always, we always have to examine the expectation in some of those critical classes that the Colorado Commission of Higher Ed recommends. So when you're looking at, and Senator Moreno touched on this, one of the classes that I typically hear is our students wind up in remedial math classes in particular. So I think I would look into those particular classes, the Algebra 1, the geometry, the Algebra 2 classes, and Algebra 2 is one of those gateway classes that gets you into and prepares you the best for college algebra when you start. If it's not, if we don't drill deep enough into that content, for example, Algebra 2 in high school, and prepare them right there, if it's getting watered down in some way, they will walk out maybe passing that class if the teacher is dropping that standard within
Mr.
that
Schwartz.
class.
We have another one, so we're gonna have to,
Can I want to get one more thing out to you, because this is
Okay.
really the most critical piece. This is the menu of options, and this is the big change to graduation requirements. So what you're looking at up on the slide is what we, actually not that one.
Thanks.
So what the state has decided, and the change we need to make to be aligned with the state expectation, is what you have in front of you is something called the menu of options. So right here, this slide actually includes many of the things that are on the paper that I just handed you. The two that are not listed on this paper are the IB, International Baccalaureate, and you're looking at capstone is not on this slide. So our district currently has all of these different avenues for a student to show college and career readiness currently. With those, this paper that I handed you, these are the set baseline scores to go along with this that the state expects. So what this paper means is that we all had to pass our classes, have an acceptable GPA, and we graduated. We got that diploma. The change is you have to do that, and you have to demonstrate college or career readiness by doing it with one of these. You have to demonstrate through one of these options. So this is that piece, that critical piece we definitely add to our graduation requirements. So
Mr. Schwartz,
students have to show both.
On this piece real quick.
Yes.
So what that tells me is CDE is less interested in how much time a student spends in each subject area and more interested in them demonstrating proficiency via one of these things.
It depends. Many of these are, you're demonstrating in English or in math. So it's ultimately a test most of the time. AccuPlacer, you're looking at ACT, obviously. So when you take SAT, if you have a certain score, you've just checked the box for English, and hopefully you have it for math, and you've checked that one as well. So you just demonstrated this, and now you just have to concentrate on graduating with the diploma part.
The requirement for AP surprises me a little bit. It's a 2, and yet what's required for college credit is usually a 3 or above.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
Yes. So a 2 says that you are college ready. A 3 says that you're already in college to some degree. I think that was probably the best way it was explained to me. So 3 says, hey, I'm ready, or 2 says I'm ready for college, but I'm not college level yet. The 3 says, or 3 or better says, you've taken a college course and you're going to be granted credit for that. So currently, and I can see Mr. Thomas about that particular piece. Currently, a student can take an AP course, earn a 3 or better if they take the AP exam for that course, and you earn college credit typically in the state of Colorado. So we had students last year where we didn't use our concurrent enrollment budget, and I wanted to make sure that students took the test, so we actually used some of that money to make sure anyone and everyone that was in that AP class took that test, because we want them to earn that college credit. It's one less thing you have to pay for later, quite frankly, and it's also in line with what we need to do here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I think next we have KIPP.
Hold it, I've got a
Oh,
question.
you got a question?
You know, I keep hearing college ready, and I don't know, I would like to know, for the last 8 years that I've been on this board, we keep saying college ready, and we never get a report how many of our kids are actually graduating from college. How many are going, how many are going. Sometimes I feel, about 2 months ago, I was at the Rotary, and they had a woman presenting, president of the plumbing union. She presented, and she said that here we're getting our students ready for college. They go to college, and if they do, they get degrees, and the next thing you know, they can't even use that degree. So what do? They come into the work field, want to be a welder, want to be a electrician, and they end up getting their electrical, but not only do they end up getting their degrees in that, they also have a $50,000, $60,000 fee to a college that they went. So why do we keep is it worthy for us to keep pushing college ready, if why can't we have 2 tracks?
Absolutely. I think you bring up a great point. Something that we have to develop from this menu, the industry certificate piece. So as we speak to college ready, industry certificates are career ready, are an example of that. So we have, I want to say, 6 different CTE classes currently over at the high school. We have business and carpentry and machining and auto body and culinary arts. We have these, but right now we currently are not able to offer all of our students that certificate of industry because the teachers sitting in the seats have the teaching license. Well, you need that to be a teacher. We need them also to have the certificate or license in industry to have the ability to grant them that certificate. So then when they walk out of high school, I can be a chef maybe while I'm working or be a chef and go to college even at the same time. So maybe college isn't that thing for me. I don't have to go for 4 years. I could leave early if that's my aspiration to do so. So we have to do a better job in our district of developing our industry certificates. We should have more available to our students in that particular area, and we're behind, comparatively speaking, with other districts.
Mr. Schwartz, thank you. This has been really informative. One last thing that I guess an observation that I made, in almost every policy that you provided, including our own, there's a discrepancy in what the Board of Education strongly encourages versus what's required. In a lot of places, 4 English and 4 years of math are required, but we also encourage 4 years of science and 4 years of social studies, and that varies. Sometimes 2 years are required, sometimes 3. So hopefully we can talk more about that offline.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to have study on KIPP Charter School Applications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why is there so many?
Good evening, President Quintana, distinguished members of the board, Superintendent Abrego. My name is Sheila Burke, and I'm joined tonight with my colleagues, Mr. Sean Milner and Mr. Alex Sanchez. We are here tonight to present to you on our charter school application process. Tonight, we will review Adams 14 school performance, review processes and timelines for charter authorization, have an applicant presentation from KIPP Commerce City Academy, have question and answers from the board with the applicant, and then review our next steps. In front of you, I've placed your PowerPoints that you can follow along and take notes should you choose to. Our first goal tonight is to briefly look at our school performance. This data is based on the data that was recently released by CDE. Almost 28% of the seats in Adams 14 are in schools on a performance plan, the highest rating by the state. The other 72% of seats are in schools that are not rated as high performing. It's important to note that any new schools that are opened or authorized by Adams 14 will be a part of this performance story. On November 13th, our Board of Education will take action on the charter school application we received. To inform your decision, you will receive input from our DAC through a superintendent recommendation, through community meetings with our public, and from the superintendent through a superintendent recommendation. Here you will see our timeline tonight is marked with a green arrow. This information has been posted on our website on adams14.org and shared with all principals via email. The district has encouraged principals to share this information with their staff and our community. KIPP also had an opportunity to present to our community members last week on September 18th. We had 66 parents and community members in the morning meeting and 32 parents and community members in the evening meeting for 98 families and community members in all. We collected information for the board using a note catcher. This feedback will be compiled by the district and provided to the board on the October 9th meeting. Our next study session will be composed of 2 separate recommendations. The superintendent and the DAC have been reviewing the KIPP Commerce City Academy application and materials, interviewing the applicant and determining whether the charter school is likely to be a high-quality option in Adams 14. Tomorrow, KIPP is hosting a community tour at their elementary and middle school sites in Southwest Denver. This has been added to your calendars. We have transportation scheduled and is going to pick up our community members tomorrow at 8:30 from our ESS building. We will visit KIPP's Sunshine Peak Elementary, opened this year, and is implementing a bilingual model. One more. We wanted to provide some basic information before we invite KIPP up to present to you. This is all information that was collected from the charter school application that was submitted to the district in July and that is now under review. So the name of the proposed school is KIPP Commerce City Academy. The grade configuration for year 1 is early childhood education 3-year-olds, early childhood education 4-year-olds, kindergarten, 1st grade, and 5th grade. The number of students that they're looking to serve in year 1 is 379 students. The grade configuration for the entire application is early childhood education through 12th grade. The model focus is a college prep by literacy and personalized learning model. The services that KIPP is going to offer is full-day early childhood education, free kindergarten, bilingual education, differentiated instruction, and special education. The potential locations are at 7200 East 88th Avenue in Henderson, and another potential location is 10600 Havana Street in Commerce City. Tonight we have our charter applicant KIPP here to present. These topics were generated by the board at our August 28th study session. We heard board members wanted to learn more about charter schools and charter schools governance, the potential impact on charter schools on Adams 14 as a school district, and charter authorizing. During our meeting tonight, we will have our applicants present, and then we'll have time at the end for you to be able to ask questions directly to our applicant. So if you'll hold your questions to the end. At this time, I would like to invite KIPP up for their presentation.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Abrego for having us this evening. Before I start our presentation, I do want to introduce the rest of our team. My name is Kimberly Sia. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for KIPP Colorado Schools. With me, I have Kurt Push, our Chief Schools Officer, Anjali Featherstone, our Chief Operating Officer, and Jody Cantrell, our Director of External Affairs. I'll be doing the presentation, but during the question and answer session, all 4 of us will be available to answer questions. So KIPP Colorado Schools has been in the Denver area since 2002. We currently operate 6 schools in Denver, 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools. You can see here we started out as a middle school organization and then have added our elementary and our high schools. We are part of the larger KIPP National Network, which has 224 schools in 20 states in the District of Columbia. Through our partnership with the KIPP Foundation, we are able to receive professional development for our leaders and for our staff and benefit from opportunities of partnership similar to things that we do here locally, able to get that from the national level as well. At KIPP Commerce City Academy, our mission will be to provide ECE through 12th grade students with a challenging, standards-based, culturally responsive curriculum that equally values academic achievement and personal character and cultural growth through civic engagement in order to be successful in college and the world beyond. Our students will graduate KIPP Commerce City Academy as lifelong learners with passion, skills, and desire to change the world and be leaders in their community. Sheila talked a little bit about our school model. As you can see in our application, we would serve about 1,500 students in ECE 3 through 12th grade, and our model is to open just a few grades at a time. And so over the first 5 years of our charter, we would start with ECE K and 1 in the elementary school, 5th grade for middle school, and then add on, so our high school wouldn't actually open until the 5th year with just 9th grade. Couple other pieces around our model is that we will have a longer school day and a school year, typically go about 8 hours a day with our students, ECE through 12th grade, and then our school year is typically about 2 weeks longer than the school district where we currently operate. We will also have a biliteracy model, and so what that means is that our students will receive literacy instruction in their native language, and then throughout the day, students will, for 3-week periods at a time, either have a portion of that in Spanish or have that in English. So 3 weeks of Spanish for morning circle time, for math time, and then 3 weeks in English. So that our goal is by the end of 4th grade, our students, both our English-only students and our native Spanish-speaking students will be fully biliterate. And this is in response to requests from families that are looking for their students to not only be biliterate when they graduate high school with the seal of biliteracy, but to start that much earlier when they are in elementary school. At KIPP, we talk about our differentiators. What do we think makes us different in the model that we offer to families? And so we believe that our differentiators are high expectations. We talk a lot with our families and our students about what it means to be successful in the school from both an academic and from a personal perspective. We use both formal and informal assessments to measure that success against goals that we set together with our students. And we use lots of data to inform whether or not we're hitting the expectations that we have set. We also believe in strength of character, and that means we're not only creating students who know how to read and write, but we're creating students who can be powerful leaders in their communities, who are critical thinkers, who are constantly looking at ways to be able to solve problems and to be able to go out once they graduate from our schools and be successful in college or career, whatever path they choose after high school. We also believe in our safe, structured, and nurturing environments, and this is how we think about what does it feel like the minute you walk into one of our schools. Do people feel welcome? Do our families feel welcome? Do our students? Do our staff? Are students able to go to an adult who cares about them if there's a bullying situation? Are they able to feel that they're in a learning environment if they have a difference, that they're going to be safe and be able to not be teased or not have their needs not being met? And our belief is that we want to create an environment where all students are welcome and they feel that every day when they come to school. We also believe in our teachers and our leaders need to be highly effective. They are the cornerstone to the success of our schools. We provide a lot of professional development for our staff, both before the school year starts, and then throughout the school year, we have an early release day for our students so that our teachers can do professional development during the workday. And then we also provide opportunities for them to meet with their grade level partners or with their content partners. And we provide every teacher with a coach with whom they meet every week to receive feedback on their instruction and their performance so that they can continue to be better at their practice. And then we do the same thing for our school leaders. They are all coached by our chief schools officer and have the opportunity to continually improve and be the best they can be. Our last differentiator is our KIPP through college program. As soon as a student finishes 8th grade with us, they become a part of our KIPP through college program if they go to our high school or if they go to another high school. And what we believe there is that we make a promise to families to follow students for up to 10 years after they finish 8th grade. And so if a student graduates high school with us, we then follow them for up to 6 years after high school graduation. And that might look like helping them with a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, a certification program, the military, whatever choice they make after they graduate from high school. If they don't go to our high school, we still have staff who will go and support them both at the high school in terms of counseling and then also after high school graduation. We also meet the needs of all of our learners. In addition to our biliteracy model, we do have English language development as required by state law, ensuring that all of our students are getting the supports that they need to develop their English language skills. We serve all students with special education. It's often a question we get is if we take students with IEPs, and we do. We are required to, and if we don't have staff on staff who can meet specific needs of students, it's our responsibility to ensure that we're hiring that staff and that we're fully meeting the individualized education plan of each and every student. We also have strong gifted and talented programs with certified gifted and talented teachers on staff to fulfill the advanced learning plan requirements for all of our students who have been identified as gifted and talented. And then finally, we believe these are all academics related, but we also believe in whole child and social emotional supports for all of our students. So ensuring that we have mental health staff on hand on our mental health providers on staff, as well as having PE and health as a regular part of our day, along with our other specials such as music, art, dance, yoga, and usually driven by either student or staff interest. We will add those as specials. Another component of our model is family and community engagement. We are here in front of you today because we've been meeting with families here in Commerce City for over a year now in what started out as living room conversations around what they were looking for in schools. It wasn't even a conversation about KIPP, and it has evolved into a conversation about what's important to you in a school, what's important to you for your child. And so we've been in a design process with families that helped informed many of the things that I just shared with you, and that would continue both as a partnership with the school district, with our school community, with our families. We host events for our communities, not just for our families, and we would want to be able to replicate that here in Commerce City. I did want to mention our governance structure. So KIPP Colorado Schools is a nonprofit 501c3 that is managed by its own governing board. So we currently have an 11-member board. The board is responsible for approving all of our policies, as well as being the fiduciary agents of our organization, and they hold the contracts with our charter authorizers. We do have working committees on that board as well, so they, in addition to the bi-monthly board meetings that we have, we also then have committees that meet on a monthly basis. At KIPP, we believe in one team, one family, and one mountain, and we look forward to the opportunity to potentially create that atmosphere here in Commerce City. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Could I'd like to follow up on a question that Mr. Roller raised at the last board meeting, and that had to do with the transportation in the district. And I believe it was Mr. Schaller who said that generally the responsibility for getting kids to charter schools lies with the families, you know, and Mr. Roller's question specifically said, what happens if you open your school in the south part of the district and there are kids in the north part of the district that want to attend? You know, whose responsibility is it for those kids to get to school?
So we believe that if students truly have a choice in a school, that they have to be able to get to that school. And so we have written into our application that we would provide transportation for students. It isn't this detailed in the application, but it would be for any student who lives in the Adams 14 boundary. So if the school was in South Commerce City and a family lived in Northern Commerce City, we would work to help to provide them with transportation to be able to get to the school.
I have another question.
Sure.
And this is a kind of a pernicious issue, and it has to do with the kind of the finances. And again, it was raised at the last board meeting in terms of generally talking about charter schools. And I think it'd be good to maybe dispel that regarding KIPP, you know. And again, the consultant said, or the guest speakers had said that charter schools have the same financial open book requirements and so forth that public schools do. And I guess I just wanted a clarification on that, because it seems like that allegation is persistent, and I'd like to kind of deal with it with some finality.
Sure.
But for example, you know, in looking at those numbers, are they all for just the KIPP Academy that you're going to be opening here, or are some of those numbers subsumed under all of the Colorado schools? And are they? I also think that there was a mention by one of the speakers last time that a maximum of 5% of the budget could be expended for essentially administrative oversight. And how does KIPP fit into those, you know, where does KIPP fit in on that scale?
So if I miss one of those questions, just let me know. I'll start with
Okay.
the 5%.
Sure.
So that is true. There is by state statute, authorizer can charge up to a 5% administrative fee off of the top of the per pupil for any charter that they authorize in the district. The district could also charge us for any services that we may choose to engage in sharing with the district. So if we wanted to use transportation, there could be services charged to us as well that would be paid back to the district. The finances that were included in our application were just for KIPP Commerce City Academy. However, by state statute, we are required to follow the Colorado Financial Transparency Act. And so you can go to our website, you can look at individual information for each of our schools, all of our budgets, our expenses, our spending, or the same thing, expenses and revenue. You can also see for our organization as a whole. So because KIPP Colorado Schools is a nonprofit, and in the state of Colorado, we do have one budget, so we do an audit, but within the audit, we have to hold separate budgets for each of our schools, because the money that comes into one school comes in for the students at that school. Our 990s are also public, so if there was, all of our information is posted on our website, and there's nothing hidden in that sense, so it is transparent, and always happy to answer questions beyond that.
Are any of the board members of those 11 members, do they receive any type of compensation or bonus or?
No, they do not. They are all volunteer board members.
Right.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. Is any of the 6 schools from KIPP in turnaround?
We did have a middle school last year that was in turnaround last year. The previous year, we had seen a decline in performance at the school and made the decision to replace the entire leadership team, as well as approximately 60% of the staff. And with that new team that we added with additional supports in terms of intervention, we moved that school to a preliminary green rating on the state SPF this year.
And what school was that, please?
KIPP Northeast Denver Middle School.
Okay. And my next question is, you say retention, and if you replace 60, you said 60%, because on your, I looked at your annual report, and on your annual report, it states that 74% retention, and I counted your teachers for 2018 was 231, I believe. And I believe that got rid of 58, almost approximately about 58% of teachers, 60. So that's a high turnover rate.
So that's across all of our schools in the region, as well as our regional team. We also added students, so because we were still growing some of our schools, there were also grade levels that were added that didn't have students, that didn't have teachers in them. For example, I'm assuming you looked at the 17, 18
I went
annual
through the
report.
whole annual
Or 16,
report.
17, I'm not sure which one. But last year, we added a third grade class, we added third grade and we added 11th grade at 2 of our schools. And so that increases the number. Our retention rate of teachers has been hovering between 72 and 74%.
Because you have I think it's page 15 on your annual report of a graduation rate of 100% of 2017. But when I went to the high school, the graduation rate for, I believe, is the Denver Collegiate, 4 years, 83%. And then when I kept looking, the 5th year, 100% is for the English learners, and that's only 20, count was 26. So I'm trying to figure out, how do y'all have 100% graduation rate on your annual report? And it's only 83% for only one school, because the other high school does not have a data to show the graduation rate.
I'm going to have Mr. Push answer that
Please.
as our Chief Schools Officer.
So you're correct, the 5-year graduation rate that you cited, around 83% for KIPP Denver Collegiate.
No.
And
The
then,
4-year graduation
Yeah.
rate for the collegiate high school is 83%.
correct.
But on your annual report, you got 100%. But then year 5, it's 100%, and it's only 26 students, and that's the English learners,
Yeah.
English language learner students, that's 100%, and that's at a 5-year. So it's a little discrepancy of you saying 100% graduation rate, but you ain't telling who is graduating and what's graduating and what year is graduating on your annual report.
So you're correct, 83% graduation rate of our senior class, 100% of our senior class graduated.
I think what I hear you asking is that 83% is the 4-year graduation rate, 100% is the 5-year graduation rate.
No. Your 100% graduation rate is your English language learners, year 5, and that's a count of 26 individuals. But you got it in your annual report. What I'm saying is, you come in front of the dais, in front of us, you go in front of the community, and you presenting this information of 100% a graduation rate. But then when I go to the CDE framework and pull up the school, the CDE shows that 83% graduated from the collegiate high school in 4 years. And now I'm looking on the page 15 of your annual report, and it's only, you're saying 100%, but you're not distinguishing what is the 100%. So it's you're giving
I see what you're saying.
false information on one hand, then I got to dig and keep looking to make sure I'm reading correct, and that's why I'm asking these questions.
So that is a 5-year graduation rate. And so I need to go back. It must not be notated in the annual report. You are correct that it's an 83% graduation rate for a 4-year graduation rate.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Ms. Sia, under Colorado law, nonprofits have to be organized as nonprofit organizations, or charter schools have to be organized as nonprofit organizations. But KIPP is a national organization as well. In any of those other states in which you operate, do those schools operate as for-profit entities?
They do not. They are all nonprofit entities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask a follow-up question, pretty much on that same point? And again, it's a, perpetual problem that keeps popping up. And that is, when we've talked before and I visited your schools and so forth, I think I asked you about this, but I just want kind of confirmation, and it's probably good to share it with everybody. And that is, often a charter school will subcontract various services with other entities, whether they are for-profit or whether they are other nonprofits. But there are horror stories, so to speak, of charter schools that use that channel for reallocating substantial funds that essentially then will be channeled into individual private pockets. And I believe that you had said when we talked several months ago that KIPP did not have any intention of using any subcontractors. Is that correct?
That is correct. All of the organizations that we contract with are outside of the KIPP family. They're all independent organizations or entities or businesses.
And that still is in terms of percentages, it's a fairly small percentage of the overall budget. Is that correct?
Correct. That would be the people who provide our copiers to us would be an example of someone that we would
Right.
have that type
Right.
of contract
Yeah.
with.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
But can I ask a question?
Sure.
On the annual report, it does not show any financial reports.
Under question 6, so there's a question 6 that says, do we have a sustainable financial model? And there is financial information that is included in that section. It does not have detailed financial reports in that section of the annual report. The more detailed, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, it's not as detailed.
Correct.
Correct. Not where X, Y, and Z is going. It's just, I believe it's like 6 lines I read.
That is correct, and the rest of the information is what is available on our website with all of the financial transparency requirements. That's more detailed information is posted on our website. We will try to keep the annual report as small as possible, just so that it's more digestible for folks, but we're happy to share more detailed information if there's questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sia, just a quick question. All of your schools in Colorado are district authorized, correct?
That is correct.
And
Currently all by Denver Public Schools.
thank you. And is there an average length of your contract with the authorizer?
So right now, we're in a range of anywhere from a 2-year charter contract to a 5-year charter contract, and it changes year over year based on, or each time based on how the school is performing when the renewal occurs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So as we close, some next steps are that tomorrow we're going to have our KIPP school tour. We're going to tour KIPP Northeast Elementary and KIPP Northeast Middle School. On October 9th, we'll have a board study session. At that time, we'll have a superintendent recommendation and a DAC recommendation to the board. On October 11th, we'll have a community meeting for our board to engage with our community at our Savior Lutheran Church. On October 23rd, we'll have a board study session. And October 13th, you'll have a public comment and a board vote on the application.
November 13th?
Thank you, November 13th. Thank you, Ms. Quintana. In addition, we are seeking guidance from the Board of Education on the October 23rd study session to see if there's additional topics that you would like for us to bring forward to you that we can provide to you prior to your action on November 13th.
Thank you. That'll be the end of our study session, and we will go into legal, commencing now. CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses B, legal advice, board to conference with an attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific matters by literacy. Can I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to proceed into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, paren 4, paren B.
Can I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second. There we go to legal for biliteracy.
Can I have a roll call, Monica?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.